Hey adventurers, so today is going to be another book review. This is going to be for Arcanum Unbounded by Brandon Sanderson. So this is actually a collection of his Cosmere fantasy short stories and novellas. And so that's what Arcanum Unbounded is. It's not just a single story through line or anything like that. It's a collection of stories. This is fantasy. This is a collection, like I already mentioned. It's epic and high fantasy. There's a little bit of science fiction or science fantasy to it because Sanderson takes some of the stories into the space age of the Cosmere, and so we get a little bit of that as well. Arcanum Unbounded by Brandon Sanderson is a collection of novellas and short stories from across the Cosmere, that Sanderson's interconnected universe for storytelling. Some of those stories are set in worlds that we are familiar with due to his larger series, such as Mistborn or Stormlight Archives or Elantris and Warbreaker. And some are just completely unique stories in and of themselves. It allows Sanderson to tell stories and flesh out the Cosmere without writing entire books, though oftentimes his novellas are still the length of other people's novels, as well as oftentimes he'll take a story that and flesh it out into a larger work or something like that, or reutilize it in another place in order to tell more of the story, whatever that might be. For example, he's got a White Sands novel in here that is White Sands is his series that he originally released as I don't know if he originally released it or he most famously released it as a graphic novel series that wasn't very well received. I haven't read it. I kind of want to because I like graphic novels, but I haven't gotten to it yet. Anyways, so there's things like that as well in here. Before I get into this review, I just quickly like to say welcome to an Erudite Adventure. I'm T. If you're liking what you're seeing from us, please like, comment, and subscribe. So this is a collection that I've had for a while and have been slowly working my way through. And by slowly, I mean every once in a while I'll go pick it up and read a story out of it. That has happened like twice. And actually only one time that I actually physically read a story out of it, although I have used it for referencing things at various times. Reading a story here or there as I came across it, or it fit into one of the other series. So although I've previously read and reviewed a few of them individually, namely The Emperor's Soul and Edge Dancer, I finally decided to go back and read through the rest of the collection and actually finish all the stories in this collection that I needed to and that I hadn't previously consumed or knew the stories of. And I did end up prioritizing this because of Sanderson's fifth secret project, which is Isles of the Emberdark. That was being released, and I knew it was connected to this short story Six of the Dusk, and so I wanted to go and read Six of the Dusk so I could be prepared for that when it came out. That was before I knew that he just incorporated Six of the Dusk into Secret Project number 5, into Isles of the Emberdark, and that's fine. It was actually good for me to read it beforehand so that I could get this story and then have it refreshed as I went back through it in Isles of the Emberdark. So I just wanted to read that first. After I did that, I just decided to go back to the beginning and read the entirety of the book, minus the few stories that I had already previously read. Overall, these were decent. I'm not a massive fan of short fiction. I have begun to appreciate it more, but it's still not my favorite medium. And I'm growing to appreciate it, but it's not my favorite. That's what I'm trying to say. But I am learning to enjoy it. There it is right there. I'm also finding that I like Sanderson less and less as time goes by, and I was a bit burnt out on his works. As with most collections, there will always be some stories that work better than others, and I found that the stories set in the world of Mistborn to be my absolute favorite. Those are the ones that I just loved. I just had so much fun with, and even with the Elemancer Jack and the Pits of Hathsin or whatever, that's Pits of Eltania. That's, I think, what it is. But anyways, even with that one, that's kind of just like a humorous short story, in-world short story type thing. I enjoyed it. I appreciated it because I had fun with it. And I enjoyed it a lot more than I really do most of the other Cosmere stuff. Most of the others were fine, but nothing really resonated with me. I did appreciate getting to explore many of the other worlds, though, and that's a great thing. That's a nice thing about the Cosmere, is that all these worlds are interconnected. And I'm definitely glad to read it for the sake of understanding the Cosmere better. And if for nothing else, the stories set on schedule, as I already mentioned, which are the Allomancer Jack one and then Mistborn: A Secret History, which is very important to the Cosmere overall. I don't really have a whole ton to say about this. It had some interesting ideas and some fun stories. Sanderson's world building is always a highlight from him. There was nothing here that was really terribly new or interesting to me, or really just wowed me in any way. There was some nice things to finally know and to finally understand, but it wasn't like anything which just blew me away for especially for Sanderson. I've read much better Sanderson than pretty much everything here. Even if I look back to The Emperor's Soul, which I had previously read and reviewed, which many consider to be probably Sanderson's best work, I think Sanderson himself considers it to be his best work, it's just fine in my opinion. Like, it's not that great. It's not better than some of the other stuff that I've read, at least story-wise, and at least in the way that it's what's being done with the story. I know that thematically it's very strong and people like the artistry and the theming in that story. But for me, it was just fine. It wasn't fantastic. It was fine. I'm glad people like him being Sanderson, and I don't dislike him, but he hasn't really done a lot recently that I just adore. There's been a few stories. Yumi and the Nightmare Painter was one that I really enjoyed a lot more than I was expecting to. But for the most part, I just don't... Sanderson is not writing for me as a reader anymore, and that's fine. Maybe it's I have grown as a reader and my tastes have strayed from Sanderson. I don't know if it's him or if it's me, probably a little bit of both. That's about all I have to say. I like some of the stories more than others. Overall, it was worth reading, especially if you are a Cosmere fan or a Sanderson fan, and I'm glad that I finally did read it, but it's not something that I think I will find myself returning to too often, except for maybe certain stories, and that's not even terribly likely. The most common thing that I would do with it is use it as a reference. I'm glad that I have it on my shelf for the rest of my Cosmere collection, but it's not something that I think is terribly necessary for reading for the Cosmere, and I think Sanderson has done that intentionally, where the short stories have never been required reading, and none of it is required reading. But that's beside the point. I do appreciate having read it, and there were some cool things in it, but I'll probably mostly use it for reference in future rather than going back and rereading specific stories. There might be some stories that I go back and reread. I could see myself rereading Mistborn: A Secret History at some point just to better understand it, because I think I may have spaced out a little bit when I was listening to that one. I did listen to the majority of this. The only one that I've actually physically read was Emperor's Soul. The rest of them I ended up listening to at various times over the years, or when I went back and got this on audiobook to listen to Six of the Dusk, and then restarted from the beginning and went through it all. So anyways, that is my review for Arcanum Unbounded by Brandon Sanderson. Thank you guys for watching an Erudite Adventure. We post videos every Monday and Thursday. We have our social medias linked in the description down below, and we will see you guys again soon. Thanks for watching. Stay warm.